Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and then sign up using the promo code CHGO. The baseball winter meetings underway in beautiful, sunny San Diego. Our Ryan Herrera is there and will join us at some point during this podcast. Meanwhile, Cody and I, we're just hanging out in the cold. You know, we're just sitting here at home waiting for something to happen. And all we see is money being thrown around by other teams for old pitchers, Cody. And when I say money being thrown around, I mean Verlander today gets 2 years, $86 million, and then a vesting option for a third year. So generally that means if he meets some sort of level of criteria that they've set, whether it's innings pitched or wins or whatever in those first 2 years, then he gets another $35 million for a third year. And then deGrom over the weekend, 5 for 185. And I heard somebody say today, and I almost fell over, and I didn't fact check this, but it sounds like it's
don't let the facts get in the way of a good.
That's
story
right. That's why I'm going to. And this is a podcast. We can say whatever the hell we want. The fact was that Verlander and with Scherzer with the Mets, those two contracts together combined for more money than the entire payroll of 5 different teams in Major League Baseball.
I would guess that those teams are the Athletics, the Pirates,
probably the Rays,
the Reds, maybe.
Could
I know Joey Votto's on there, but like,
yep.
I would start with those 3 teams, and then
those are old guys, Cody. I mean, like they're not as old as I am, but you're talking about. Yes, they are elite pitchers. Man, they're shelling out the cash for old guys now.
Yeah. So just to start what you said at the beginning about how everyone's still the Cubs haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But the winter meetings are here. I was trying to find my way to insert my line here, but it's classic seasonal depression that we're in right now, stuck like it's cold. There's no sun out.
Yeah.
I'm stuck inside. Don't get me wrong. I like doing remote shows, especially when it's cold, but there's something about my mood that gets better if I have to get up, put clothes on, and actually go to the office.
Yeah.
These remote days are fine. I'm not trying to get rid of it. But I'm just saying, there's especially when it's cold and it's gloomy out like it is today, it's like the classic seasonal depression. And that's what the Cubs are doing to us right now. But there is good news. But also related to deGrom and Verlander, they're making that's an insane amount of money, man. And on Friday, whenever deGrom went to the Rangers, I was like, finally, Steve Cohen found a line. But then today he signs Verlander and gives him more money. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess there was no line. They just like Verlander more than deGrom. And so now it just feels like, all right, well, we're going to see what happens over the next 2 to 3 years and see what was the better move. But, I mean, it's not like deGrom was young either. He's like, 36, 37, something like that. So, he's going to get like 37 AAV.
And 43 for Verlander.
Yeah,
that's 43 mil a season almost.
Considering how great both of them are, and considering the age of both of them as well, that's a pretty significant drop. deGrom opt out just to make a couple million more than he already was. I don't know. I get it, but
if you had the choice, which one would you do? If you were the Mets, where would you have invested 5 for 185 or Verlander 2 years, $86 million? If you had your choice.
Well, I guess Verlander, just because it's a shorter term deal, and
I think so too.
If you get an injury happens, it's not the end of the world. If deGrom gets hurt, and he's shown to get hurt the last couple years outside of last year, he entered the season coming back, right? Like you feel a little bit more comfortable on that 2-year deal with Verlander than you do with deGrom. And maybe I'm surprised deGrom didn't get a contract like that, to be honest. Like, what's 5 more years, deGrom? Like, dude, you're in your mid-30s. Like, I also feel like the Rangers were just like, we're going to give him something insane, so insane that he can't say no. And that is something insane that he couldn't say no to, in my opinion. I don't think maybe he could have got a higher AAV if he took less years, but they gave him 5 years of security. Like, not
185 million is definitely security.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very wild to think about. Like, I think that, like, just in this moment, at this time, like, yeah, the Verlander contract looks great, more so than deGrom, but I think deGrom still has that higher ceiling, though. I mean, they're both old, right? But deGrom is like, he has been the best pitcher on the planet when healthy for years. And Verlander's been up there too. I get it. Like, he's the right up there.
Cy Young, Cody.
Right. Right.
Verlander's the reigning Cy Young, and somehow his fastball has gotten faster at an older age. Maybe it's the Tommy John. I don't know. I will say this, like, not only is it just 2 years that you're invested in Verlander, if this is the way the Mets were thinking, it's shorter term. Frankly, he has been the more dependable guy. Like, deGrom, while has the ceiling to be the best pitcher in baseball, Verlander was like there last year at his age, and deGrom is like 112 innings since 2018. Like, he's been anything but dependable. And so the Rangers who spent $500 million last season and finished with an awful record, have now put a boatload of cash, don't get me wrong, great pitcher when he's healthy, into a guy with massive question marks.
Yeah.
They're crazy, in my opinion. The Rangers are just, I wish they were the Cubs throwing that kind of cash around, but like, wow.
I get, again, like, it's the 5 years part with me with deGrom that, like, it's like, I don't know, just because of the injury, but when healthy, man, I think he's better than Verlander. So, like, that's my whole basis.
Yeah,
if healthy, if healthy, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I think you might hear Mets fans saying we should have brought deGrom back. I could see it. Especially if the Mets don't win the World Series with Scherzer and Verlander.
2 really old guys. Like, great, like, all-time greats, Hall of Famers. Right. But they're banking on 2 old pitchers to somehow still have that magic late in their career. And I mean, not that they don't have other issues, but like, their whole pitching staff, they're banking on 2 great old guys.
Oh, yeah, because
that doesn't work out too often.
You giving that kind of money to those 2 guys, I mean, Chris Bassett is a free agent. Taijuan Walker is out there. Like, I don't envision them bringing those guys back now that they just gave that kind of money to Verlander. So yeah, they really are kind of banking on these older guys. I don't know too much on the pitching infrastructure on the Mets, but obviously over the course of the last decade, it's been very good. So maybe they have some guys coming up that can fill in. But it's going to be interesting to see how they fill out the rest of the rotation. Because yeah, you're right. They are really kind of banking on Scherzer and Verlander, who are old. But yeah, I mean, they're still out there performing. Verlander, Cy Young, like you said, and coming off the World Series with the Astros, which honestly kind of scares me a little bit, just because that's even more innings that he added to the arm this year. But I mean, what does it matter? He's been in the playoffs every single year since he was with the Astros, so it probably doesn't mean too much. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting because, like, I don't know how much, like, Verlander has left to, like, I guess play for or prove. Like, the guy's going to Hall of Fame one day, man. Like, he's like him going from the Astros, a market that's not like it's not small. Like, they don't act like a small market team, but they're not New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. Like, he's going from Houston to New York, where they're itching for a World Series. I'm interested to see how he performs in that. Meanwhile, deGrom's going the opposite. He's going from a big market like the Mets and going to the Rangers, where you don't really know what to expect there. You look at their roster, and yeah, they got some prospects, and obviously Simeon and Seager are there, and, like, they could be an up and coming team, but I don't know. I think for deGrom individually, I think that this works out for him. I think he can play out the rest of his career like comfortably and not have to deal with the New York media.
No state tax, by the way.
Right.
No state tax on his $185 million. That's another pile of cash that stays in his pocket.
Maybe, for deGrom too, he's just maybe he doesn't care about winning the World Series. I'm not saying it, but like that's what it looks like when you leave the Mets, a team that won 101 games last year, to go to the Rangers that didn't make the playoffs. You gave all that money to those two shortstops and they didn't win anything. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like
and it sounds like he did multiple reports saying he didn't even give the Mets a chance to match that. He took the cash and was out of town. Like he was not really happy in New York. And then the Mets had to be like, well, all right, what do we do? We have to have a frontline starter. What do we do? And they found Verlander and were like, here's 2 years, maybe 3 years, and you're going to make like an average of like $40 million a season for 3 years if you are what you say you are. And I don't think that's the wrong move. And then you mentioned Bassett, and I thought, well, he's another guy that you've heard mentioned, like, could the Cubs touch on Bassett? Is he the guy they should go after? But then I saw this weekend that, he's 34 and he wants a 4 or 5 year deal. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be what Michael Collada accuses Tom Ricketts of being on every show. And I saw he's already, the chat's pretty lit up today. It's pretty good. And I briefly caught in there that Collada said crickets from Ricketts still. But and I know you have to spend the money and you're going to have to risk a bad contract, but I don't know if I'm willing to risk a bad contract on Bassett for 4 to 5 years. I'd rather risk that on somebody like deGrom or Verlander than I would on Chris Bassett for 4 to 5 more years when he's going to be like 39, 40 at the end of the deal. Like he's just not that elite of a pitcher for me to be like, 4 or 5 more years for a guy that's in his mid 30s. That seems crazy.
Right. Yeah. No, that's kind of the thing is, I think that at this point, the Cubs know that they're going to have to, spend more than maybe they put out in their stupid modules that they have in their front office full of dudes that look at analytics only. They have to know that they're going to have to do that, especially with how this market has sprung. I mean, Clevenger got $12 million for 1 year, like these 1 year deals that we talked about how the Cubs want to do. Like, he got that. And then, we're talking about deGrom and Verlander on these short-term, or Verlander on the short-term deal. And then deGrom on the 5 year deal. Someone was in my mentions on Twitter today saying that, Rodon, Sango or Rodon, because obviously the Cubs are, I guess the Cubs are interested in Jameson, and I can't say his last name. Taillon. So they're interested in him, and then someone in my mention was like, the Cubs should go get Rodon or Senga, and we talked about Senga plenty, but Rodon has to expect to get at least 6 years now, and that's to me that's an even bigger risk than deGrom, because at least deGrom has a decade's worth of success. Rodon has been great for 1.5 seasons
and has had plenty of arm problems. Just ask the White Sox. That's why they let him go.
Exactly. Now, again, I would take him. I'd get on board for it, but like, I'm just talking about the market value now. Because of what deGrom got, Rodon has to be saying that he's accepting 6 years or more, and that's it. Like, he's not taking anything less than 6. If I was him, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, they just gave a 5 year deal to a guy who's injury prone and is old. And he's like 30, 31.
I know.
Coming off like, his best season of his career. Like, to me, it's like, it's kind of easy to just kind of project that out now. Like, there's absolutely no way that the Cubs are going to be interested in Rodon now. I don't see it unless they do spend like the Rangers did. Like, and personally, like, I would have been okay with Rodon on like a 4 or 5 year deal. But if you're talking 6 or more with that injury history, I don't know, man. It depends on what the money would be. And if there's some opt-outs in there, Like, I don't know. Like, I know the Cubs haven't even been rumored with Rodon, but I'm just saying, like,
No.
I'm talking about market value right now. Like, that's the whole point of this, is because of these signings. Now the Cubs, they have to expect that they're going to have to pay more or give 1 or 2 more years to whoever,
or give up prospects, Cody, or give up prospects and go the trade route, because I don't know what the other option is, right? Like exactly what you're saying. Like it's expensive to sign these guys, and you're signing guys that more than even the everyday players that are out there that are looking for big deals. Certainly more. If you had to take a risk on these, this is, I believe, why the Cubs have, finally decided to try and develop their young pitching, right? Like pitchers are an inherited risk. Like they just are. And if you're paying this much money for guys that are old, 30s, mid 30s and up, this is why I would rather spend the money on the everyday, spend the insane money on the everyday player, the shortstop, whoever it might be. And I know we've seen that go kind of all over the place. Tom is saying in the chat, and by the way, the chat is great today. Thanks. Hit all the like buttons, please, if you can. He's saying Cubs don't need any mid-tier pitchers for multiple years like Bassett, Rodon, Senga, clear upper tier if the Cubs want to get a pitcher, but don't overpay. Listen, we talked about this, and I think it was RWB that was suggesting maybe you go maybe you're not filling every hole this offseason. Maybe you go all in on the position players with the money, and you don't go all in on those starters. Instead, you just bring back Miley or Smiley, and maybe you invest in one of the smaller guys. Maybe it is Tyon or somebody, but I'd be okay with them spending the money almost strictly on and just leaving the pitching the way it is, and rolling the dice that your young pitchers aren't as far away as you think they are. Like if Steele takes another jump, or if you're willing to leave Keegan Thompson where he's at and he takes a jump, and I get it's a lot of what ifs, but I don't believe the Cubs are winning the World Series next year. So I feel like they have another year where they can sit there and say, all right, let's ride the pitching thing one more year. Let's mildly invest in it. Wait for the young guys, but let's not do something stupid and give 6 years to somebody that's not going to be any good the second half of it when we're actually trying to compete.
Yeah.
I don't. What do you like about the shortstop talk over the weekend? First, it was all Dansby, Swanson, and then Bob Nightingale's like, no, they're actually Xander Bogaerts. He's become their top target, and then he throws in at the end, but they're still talking to Correa. Okay, so they're still talking to the big guys, except for Turner, probably.
Right. Well, I was getting ready to say that Passan just dropped a bomb and said that that Turner and the Phillies are in agreement on a contract. Don't know the details yet. So
wow.
There's one down, and so there's
that could start left. It though.
Yeah, that could start it. That could absolutely start it. And this was a very talked about thing last week. It's not necessarily super surprising, but I'm going to be interested to see what this contract and this money is. But as far as the talk over the weekend, especially with Xander Bogaerts, it makes a lot of sense with a guy like Xander Bogaerts, playing with David Ross, Jed Hoyer, I think was when he was with the Red Sox was one of the key reasons and why he even became a Red Sox. Like they've known who he is for a long time. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about Correa for months, almost a year, it feels like at this point, you know what I mean? And
did you see the financials on this, Cody? Sorry to interrupt you. The source is saying 11 years, $300 million, full no trade clause.
Wow.
If that's crazy, I mean,
where are you saying that?
Again, this was Kylie McDaniel retweeted Jeff Papp.
I see it. Yeah. Kylie McDaniel source: Turner is getting 11 years, $300 million with a full no trade clause.
Okay, so I mean, Correa is getting something close to that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's actually
11 years.
Yeah. The years is wild, but the 300 million is actually less than I expected, to be honest. I honestly thought he'd get
Me
a little
too,
bit
but I
more.
didn't expect 11 years.
11 years, yeah.
By the way, this puts the Dodgers on high alert, just like the Mets were after they lost deGrom.
Yeah.
Get busy, Jed.
Yeah. So to just react to all of this.
Yeah.
This is my stance. And I said this beforehand when I said that we all need to remain calm and we need to just wait and see until at least until one comes off the board. One is now off the board.
Yeah.
And I will admit, I'm getting a little nervous over here. All right. Like I am definitely getting a little nervous. I'm hoping that this Xander Bogaerts stuff is true. And Correa, the talk about Correa has been very quiet over the last 5 days, it feels like. So I don't know. Maybe the Cubs are clearly he's been linked to the Cubs for months. So like it's still there. And Swanson, he's also obviously been linked to the Cubs over the last week. So like, am I hitting the panic button? No. I'm letting everyone know. I'm not sitting here being a homer. I'm letting y'all know that I'm a little nervous and like the Cubs need to get something done. Turner just set the market, 11 years, 300 million.
Yeah.
Get it? Like, I don't care how you do it. This is, to me, the money and the years don't matter. For the shortstops, doesn't matter. You got to get one. I don't care who. I genuinely don't care who. You got to get one because you do that. First off, the first reason is because they're all better than anything the Cubs have outside of Nico Hoerner anyway. And they're all better than Nico Hoerner right now anyway as well. But like, you got to pair someone with Nico Hoerner. They're all better than what the Cubs already have, and they're all better than any of the other cheaper options. So if you're serious about being competitive next season in that wild card chase at the very least, you got to get one of these guys. You absolutely got to get one. And it brings in veteran leadership. And you like we talked a lot last season about how they don't have like that identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy whoever one of these three guys left, that brings that brings this, like, if Bogaerts is so comparable to the entire John Lester situation that it makes that much more sense to me. So like right now, again, I don't care who it is. Just give me one of them because it answers a lot of questions and where the Cubs think the next 2 to 3 years are going to be like. So
right. We don't even want to talk about the possibility of them getting shut out on the shortstops. You don't. And because this first domino is gone and it's Turner, and it's not surprising because he wasn't really rumored to the Cubs. And yes, I know like the AAV isn't crazy for a guy, but 11 years is a lot of dough. And the no trade clause, by the way, that's not a factor because if he's a bum late in his age, the Philly fans will run him out of town anyways. He'll be begging for a trade at the end of the thing. So don't worry about that. I'm just saying you're right. You have to get one. I think the Dodgers become the front runner in the Correa talks. They will throw all their money at Correa if that's who they believe the guy is. It doesn't seem Cub-like for the Cubs to be a team that would outbid the Dodgers or maybe the Yankees or whoever else, Giants, whoever else might be in the mix at shortstop. It doesn't seem Cub-like for them to be the team that would come out on top in the highest bid in that market. So if that is the case,
I still think that the Dodgers and Judge is still a possibility, especially now with Turner gone.
Can you imagine that the Dodgers, like if they got Judge and Correa?
No, I don't think they'll do that.
I don't either, but I'm just saying, I will say this. Clayton Kershaw gave them a deal in free agency. 1 year, $20 million is a hometown discount. When you consider that deGrom's getting $37 million, Verlander's getting $43 million, less than half the money you're paying for Verlander, you're getting Kershaw. I know. I'm not saying the guy's not hurt all the time too. He is. But when Kershaw's right, he's every bit as good as Justin Verlander.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Who's the best pitcher the last like 20 years? Those are the two names that come up: Verlander and Kershaw.
Yeah,
right. So like
with deGrom when healthy,
he's allowed them a little leeway to go spend a little extra money somewhere else, and that scares me a little bit. So if it is Swanson and Bogaerts, I just say go do it. Like, don't wait around. If Correa is going to drag you along, if that's what's going on, I wouldn't wait around for him forever. If you think you get Swanson and or Bogaerts, I would go for it.
Yeah. For a lot of people reacting in the chat, and it's not surprising to a lot of the comments. And but Fernando Rodriguez, he says, "Thank you for the $1.99." By the way, he says, "Deep down, I know the Cubs not getting anyone." And listen, I totally get it. Like, I totally get it. But if the Cubs do not get any of these shortstops, y'all will get the rant, and we can all be here and vent and be angry together. And I'm going to tell Ryan to take off his stupid reporter hat and give us a rant as well. Like, we will all deserve that. Okay. There is absolutely no excuse at all for the Cubs to not get one of the 3 shortstops left. Get it freaking done, Jed. Just get it done.
Yeah. Well, Ryan's not wearing a hat, so he doesn't have to take off the reporter hat. And there he is joining us live from, what is it, Ryan? The Marriott Marquis Marina in San Diego?
It's it's like the something Grand Hyatt. I forgot what the M stands
for. Grand
Hyatt.
All
something
right.
Grand Hyatt out in San Diego, yes. How's it going, gentlemen?
We get the big news coming that Turner's getting $300 million over 11 years, no trade clause. Do you think that will send the lobby into a total buzz this afternoon?
It already has. I could hear it behind me as I'm setting up. It already has, and that's a huge move, of course. It's that may be what the shortstop market has been a little slow. That may be what kind of gets it going. I can hear it behind me. I'm sure the reporters inside the workroom are already kind of going crazy, typing at their computers right now. It's big news. It is very big news. 11 years, $300 million. Like that's a lot. It's a lot of money, a lot of years. So, yeah, I expect it. It's already hectic a little bit. I expect it to get a little crazier. And there may be, maybe some more moves coming down that have an effect on the Cubs and what they're trying to do this offseason.
The Cubs have not set a time to come out and speak yet with the media today. Is that correct? You don't have a set time, do you, yet, for Jed saying, I'm going to come down and talk to you guys?
Not yet. We're still kind of waiting on word on that. Just to make sure we get him. But of course, I will have a little beat recap coming out later today. That will kind of recap a little bit about what Jed talks about when he does. I know we have David Ross tomorrow. It will be after the show, but all these a lot of these things are happening after we do the show. Obviously, we're 2 hours behind over here, but I will have beat recaps going up on YouTube, on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, that kind of give you a little bit of the lay of the land when those guys talk.
And again, if the Cubs now respond to the shortstop move or the pitching moves earlier in the day with Verlander, if the Cubs respond to that and it comes at 6:00 tonight, we're going to do an emergency podcast. Like if the signing happens just because it's after 1:20, don't think that we're not going to be there. We're going to jump right back on this and get after it. So, we've heard a lot of different names. We've heard Jameson Taillon. We've heard Dansby, Swanson. We've heard Bogaerts. Like you said, maybe this is the first domino that finally gets it going, but it does sort of seem like, who was saying it last week? Was it Passan saying it's just going to be crazy at the winter meetings? It's the floodgates are going to open. Does it sort of feel that way in San Diego? The floodgates have just opened up for free agency?
Yeah. I mean, when 2 of the top 5 biggest free agents have signed within hours of each other, that's what it feels like. It feels like the gate has opened, the drawbridge has been pulled down, and the Trojan horse has been inserted into the city. It's coming. That's what it feels like, at least. So I'm expecting a few emergency podcasts at some point this week. I guess I'm kind of hoping for it too, right? We haven't had it yet, but I want it.
Sean says emergency pod if they sign Austin Romine. No. Emergency podcast if they sign Correa. Emergency podcast if they sign Bogaerts or Swanson or somebody else big on that list.
Even Taillon, I think, is worthy of one just because of the impact he would bring to that rotation immediately. So, have you heard anything else about Taillon? I saw Feinstein send that tweet this morning, and I haven't seen anything else. Is there any other word coming out about when maybe just the expectation of when he might decide, or I don't know. Like, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten any extra word outside of, obviously Mark Feinstein's tweet. But we kind of knew that. We kind of knew he had like a really deep market, and that I don't know that we knew specifically how involved the Cubs were, but we knew that's a pitcher that fits in well with what the Cubs are trying to do. Yeah, no, we don't have any more word on exactly what he's thinking, like who he's meeting with, when he's, when he plans to sign. But if the market starts heating up like it has been, like, deGrom's off the board, Verlander's not off the board, Rodon probably not far behind, and then you start getting into that middle tier with the Kodai Senga, Chris Bassett, Tyon is going to be one of those guys. So once a pitcher start coming off the board, those guys teams are gonna start ponying up the money to get those guys.
What do you think at Turner's deal, 11 years, $300 million? Cody and I were saying like the $300 million is not surprising at all. The 11 years is sort of surprising. If you had to bet on which way the Cubs would rather go, more years or more money, which do you think they would rather invest in?
I would say higher AAV, lower years.
Me too.
The contract the Cubs are looking at. Just kind of looking back at how Jed has talked about things, how they've kind of worked. Let's say a Suzuki contract, Marcus Stroman contract, like nothing over 5 years. I think even go back to the Yu Darvish one, that was 6 years. And I don't know that I don't want to say like they're afraid to get kind of snake bitten with another Jason Hayward type contract. I don't think any executive should think that way, because you're going to lose out on a lot of good players if you do things that way. But I think if they can get a guy for just more money for less years, I think Jed would probably lean that way a little more versus giving out an 11-year contract for a 29-year-old shortstop.
So what's the setup like there, Ryan? Like that they have just like a media room, right, where the writers are kind of all gathered, and then it's just kind of, if the last time I was there, it's a big media room and then a lot of lingering, right? You're more likely to see the going up and down the elevators than you are walking through the media room usually.
Yeah. The big media room in the grand ballroom. That's obviously where everyone's set up, and then you have people walking behind me, obviously, right outside the media room. But then we got like on the second floor, MLB Network has a big kind of like the studio-ish setup up there. You got one, and you can't see it right behind me, but a couple cameras with a couple chairs right behind set up there. Yeah, it's all over the place, and you just got people walking up and down the halls, lingering, doing things. It's a cool setup. Obviously, a lot of people, so you need a place this size. But it's day one, people everywhere, meeting a bunch of people, seeing a bunch of people. Haven't seen like any players walk through yet, but maybe that comes, maybe that happens, or maybe they just stay up in the hotel rooms and never come downstairs. We'll see.
Brandon is asking us in the chat, all three of us, do you think Correa ends up with now more or less than Turner? And I don't know if he means years or money. I don't know how I feel about that. With the Dodgers still in play looking for a team, and the Giants still in play, and the Yankees still in play potentially looking for a shortstop, and obviously the Cubs in play, depends on how bad they want those top two tier shortstops. I bet you I wouldn't be surprised if he got more.
Yeah, based off youth.
Yeah, because he's younger. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? I know a lot of people thought Turner had the potential to maybe outdo Correa, but I still think Correa gets the bigger deal.
I think now that Turner set the market, the teams that may get desperate may even give Correa more. I don't know. I do feel like now that Trey Turner got 11 years, Carlos Correa is going to be looking for something years-wise in that range. Which again, we don't know if the Cubs are would be very happy to give out like a 10-year deal at this point. So it may end up being more money for a couple less years. I mean, I'm curious to see. I don't have a feel for exactly how now the teams that are out of the Trey Turner sweepstakes will approach Carlos Correa. It could be again a team that just needs a shortstop, decides to pony up and pay him a little bit more, or the market plays out and they realize that Trey Turner was the top option and then they pay him less. I'm not sure.
And Matthew Gregory's talking about 12 years. Yeah, if you want more years than Turner, he's talking about a 12-year contract. That's like Marian Hossa with the Blackhawks type deal. Like, he is a very young player. He's a very talented player. Boy, a lot can go wrong in anybody's career in any sport for 12 years. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating 2 days. Like, we've been waiting for basically this day for a year and a half at least to see what the Cubs are going to do and how invested the Ricketts and Jed will go forward in what they're going to do. And we're right on the lip of it now. Like, we're at the edge of the Grand Canyon, and we're looking down to see how far is that fall, or is there a donkey coming up that's going to, carry me out of this? Because, man, they don't want to be the team that ends up with nothing. I'll just tell you that. And so if they have to do something, it's going to make for I'm glad you're there, because it's going to make for a very interesting 24, 48 hours. Because if you leave San Diego and the Cubs haven't nailed down a shortstop or somehow made a deal for a pitcher, all hell is going to break loose at that Cubs convention. I'm just telling you, like, that it is not going to be a happy place. Like,
yeah, I'll just say on Relay to Correa, I think he just cares about making more money than Turner. So in a way, I think that benefits the Cubs. Maybe he gets 8 years, 350. I don't know. Like, I'm just throwing out a number, but like, if that's the case, then I'm fine with it. I said I don't care. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I do think that Bogaerts and Swanson would be less than what Turner got, and I do think that they're just as good as Trey Turner in their own way. In my opinion, we sat here all year. We sat here all year and yelled about what the Cubs have on their roster. They would all be perfectly fine given the role that they would automatically be made into. So I genuinely don't really care at this point. Just one. Just give me one.
Phillies are acting like a major market team with the way they have been spending, and they're going for it. Think about the money they have in Harper and now Turner. That's like $50 million each for long-term deals moving forward. Like, the Cubs have not invested in this team yet, so we will see what they do. Ryan, we know you're busy. If you get something, you got time to jump back in. Can you jump back in?
I'll do it. Yes, I will.
All right, go mingle on it. If there's a buffet there, swing by that too. Don't.
Yeah, let us know how the buffet is. Yeah,
I will do. If there is one, I haven't seen one yet, but maybe one shows up.
You find Bruce Levine, you'll find that buffet. Guys. That's my advice to you, buddy.
All right,
and you can tell Bruce I said it. We'll see you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone reacting to what I said about Correa, 8 years, 350. Again,
yeah.
I'm not a math guy. We don't math. I'm just saying, if you got to pay him more money, which is more than $300 million, but for less years, then fine. Like, what? He got 10 years? Okay, 9 years, 320. I don't know. I suck at math, Luke. I suck at math. Like,
me too. And I know a lot of people are mad that the Phillies are the team that you have teams like the Phillies and Rangers spending big money because they're not as big a market or as big a draw as the Cubs.
Philly is,
and I get that. The Cubs are not. The Cubs are in a spot where they should absolutely start spending money. There is no questioning that whatsoever, right? Got their own TV market. Like, at some point, you cannot let the Philadelphia Phillies be outspending you like they are. Like with deals like this.
I will say this.
Harper, landing Turner. Like, so eventually the Cubs are going to have to get in that pool.
Right. No, listen, Phillies roster right now, sure, yeah, you got the star power, no doubt. I won't lie, though. I still don't think that maybe they move the needle. Like, maybe they win the division next year, but that division's really good. I mean, they did that because they got to stay in competition with the Braves and the Mets getting Verlander. Right? That's the difference between the Cubs and the Phillies. Like, I'm sorry, but like the Cubs are going up against not as great competition. But that's another reason.
Series, Cody, you still got to compete with those teams. Like, sooner or later, it's not just your division. I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like, if they run in, and I know they did sweep the Phillies at the end, last season, but like,
Yeah.
You add Turner to that lineup, and that lineup, which was already absolutely crazy, just got even better. Like it just got even better. I will say this: if you're in Philadelphia, you better wear your Shady Rays because the future's bright for the Phillies.
Yeah,
Real
absolutely.
bright.
You
Speaking
should
of Shady Rays,
definitely. If you're in Philadelphia and you don't have your Shady Rays because of just the star power that's shining right at you, not only with the Phillies but also like what the Eagles are doing. I mean, sheesh, you need to invest in maybe 1 or 5 pairs, maybe 10. I don't know. But Shady Rays is the perfect brand, I would suggest. I mean, they never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone in every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Dropped in a lake, off a cliff, anything. If the stars are shining from Philly, if all the stars are shining in your eyes and it breaks your Shady Rays, then you can get another pair, and hopefully they make them a little bit stronger for you. Either way, they will replace them for free. Even with that stronger protection program, they will manage to make quality that can tell you holding in my hand seems just as good as an expensive pair that have never been worn. Shady Rays customers seem to agree with over 200,000 5-star reviews. Shady Rays also provides 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have donated over 20 million meals to date. They stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they can throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. Free returns and exchanges. You either love Shady Rays or you either love the shades or Shady Rays. Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it, exclusively for everyone who listens to the CHGO Cubs podcast. Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. If you get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades. Luke, I'm telling you, they're totally worth it. And I got
beautiful.
mine right now. And
I wore mine. I wore mine to the tailgate yesterday when I was standing in the sunshine.
So did I.
So did you? Yeah. Cody had these reflectors on, and it was like, well, he was the vibe. He was the vibe of the tailgate. Let's be honest. And that's pretty much always the case. By the way,
this was a struggle, guys. I don't read the Shady Rays ad often, so you can stop trolling me in the comments. Damn.
Yeah, we don't math, and we don't
read. That's why we put microphones in front of our faces and get paid to talk.
We don't math, we don't read, we just rant. That should be our next shirt.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I've been taking AG1 because, I didn't have time, wanted better gut health, more energy, and optimized immune system. I've been on it since April. I love it because it doesn't taste super healthy, but it is super healthy. And instead, it's got this mild tropical flavor to it. Here's what it is. 1 scoop of AG1, you absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. A special blend of ingredients supporting your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, energy recovery, focus, aging, all those things. I get that boost of energy right away, so I take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and giddy up, there I go. It is lifestyle friendly too, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, all good with AG1. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance for less than $3 a day. It's recommended by professional athletes, more than 7,000 5-star reviews. So right now, reclaim your health, arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, just 1 scoop in a cup of water, and that's it. You don't need a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs. Again, athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. The chat is lit.
It is lit, and it's going to get even more lit because the Yankees just made a huge signing, Luke.
What'd they do? Tell me, hit me with it, Cody. Well, I'm talking AG1.
They announced that GM Brian Cashman to a 4-year contract extension.
Blah. Who cares? Who cares?
It's the big signing Yankees fans have been waiting for, Luke.
Yeah, can you imagine what they're saying? They're like, we don't want him for 4 years if he's not going to spend some money.
That's not him. That's probably their owner.
Something in here that I was laughing about. I'm trying to find the chat and see if it's gone too far.
Someone says Jed needs some AG.
I know a lot of people are saying if they don't get Correa or they don't get Bogaerts, the whole offseason's a bust. No, I still think Swanson is a good move. Like the Cubs are definitely a better team with Dansby Swanson than they are without Dansby Swanson. It's just if they get Swanson, if he's the guy they decide to give their money to in free agency instead of the other two, or the other two choose a different team and they end up with Swanson, then I just want to see him make another bigger move in the outfield and or first base and or pitcher. Like something has to come with Dansby Swanson. Whereas if they do Correa, in my opinion, like Correa alone would make this offseason worthwhile for me. Like I can deal with all the moving parts at the other positions and not having every hole filled if you add Correa in the offseason. If you add Bogaerts, I feel almost the exact same way because I think those two guys are I feel real good about either one, to be honest with you. And there are a lot of reports people pointing out on Twitter. Dom has been all over it too, that Bogaerts is a diehard Cubs, grew up a diehard Cubs fan. Yeah. So I don't know if you care about that or not, but don't think for a second if the money isn't equal. If the money is equal, that growing up watching D. Lee and Aramis Ramirez and Sammy Sosa, it's going to factor. It does factor into his decision. All things are equal. He would go to the team he loved as a kid. Why wouldn't he?
Well, yeah, and then also there'll be some familiarity with the Cubs anyway with David Ross here, and then he has some sort of relationship with Jed Hoyer, I believe. So, I do think that those things factor in. Clearly not full on, like at the end of the day, like that's why the Cubs got him type stuff. But yeah, it definitely goes into it. Because I do think that a lot of these free agents want to go somewhere where they feel like they're going to be comfortable. Again, Turner was highly popular with the Phillies because A, Bryce Harper was there, and B, because their spring training is in Florida where he lives in the offseason. Right. So like that, those were two big things outside of money that got Turner to go to the Phillies, right? But then obviously the contract and the money is probably number one. But also they just won the World Series too. So like, when you win, you're going to get people to want to come play with your squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. De La Cruz says, is Jed at the zoo, the San Diego Zoo? It is a famous zoo. Let's be honest. Like, you might want to stop by, but please do it after signing one of the shortstops. That would be my advice. I saw Niren's had some good comments in here. Did you see what he sent us? And I'm going to have to find out how to make. I'm going to talk to my wife about the technicality of what we're doing here. But Niren created a Google Doc for us, so we can all be fake Cubs GMs this offseason. And
great!
He wants you to copy the doc so that not everybody's requesting access to his Google Doc. Like you can copy the link and make your own doc, and it's a way to track the amount of money the Cubs would be spending in 2023. So you're not just, that the payroll is going to reach a certain amount. It's kind of a cool thing. I think it's fun. And maybe I will try and get into this doc. I will try to get into this doc later today. I'm not going to go in it until they sign somebody though. Like I don't ever need to enter anything into Niren's slick Google document here to be a fake GM until they actually do something to put in there. Like, make it happen. Let's go.
Agree.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Cody, I pounded the fact that I wanted them to be the first domino.
Yeah, he did.
And
he's still
Turner is the first domino for me because they weren't in on DeGrom or Verlander. That just wasn't happening.
Well, they still can kind of be, because did we ever really fully have any hope that Turner was coming to the Cubs? Like, sure, the Cubs were interest kings for Turner, but like, have they been linked to Turner like they have been Correa or even Bogaerts all year? I feel like even Bogaerts was more connected to the Cubs than Turner was during the season and during this offseason, the slow part of it. You know what I mean? Like,
but why? That's my question. Like, why would they, if they had identified the other guys, Like if for some reason,
I'm not saying that they weren't interested in him. Like I said, they were interest kings for Turner, but
okay, but they weren't tied because maybe the conversation from his agent wasn't like he's dying to come to the Cubs,
right? Because again, you have to factor in, like, did he even want to come to the Cubs to begin with? I don't know. Like, we'll probably find out within the next day or two, like, who came down to it besides the Phillies. But I mean, I don't know. Like, that's kind of like what I'm getting at here. So I think, you kind of mentioned this last week, the Cubs need to be that first domino, because if Judge signs before Correa with someone, then the market for Correa is only going to increase, right? So that's why it's kind of like, yeah, then they need to get Correa or Bogaerts or Swanson before Judge signs. You know what I mean? And I believe that will happen. Not like I wouldn't bet on it, but like I feel like that's how the market is going. I think,
Cody,
right, you're right. I was betting on Green Bay and IUPUI this morning. All right. But you know what I mean? Like that, I think Judge is going to sign after the shortstops sign. So again, like that's where I'm coming from with it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's I just think at this point, like there's just more pressure on the Cubs to get this done. And, like a lot of people in the chat asking, like, I think Lil Yumper said something basically asking the question, like, how do we look at this front office if they come out of this offseason with no major impact players? And it's like, everyone is going to yell about the Ricketts, but honestly, I'll be sitting here yelling about Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins. I will be screaming about them so much more. You know why? Because they're the ones that have to go get the deals done. They're the ones. They're the ones who have to get the job done. There were times that Theo Epstein didn't get the guy, but there were times that he did get the guy. You know what I mean? So like, none of this. If this comes out that the Cubs don't get an impact player, I think there's more blame on Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins than on ownership, because the Cubs have their payrolls at like $120 million or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not paying anyone.
Niren's trying to be the voice of reason. He says, I see a lot of sign this and sign that. I wanted people to look at how payroll works. It's not limitless. And I'm looking over at my TV, and John Morosi's talking about how the Cardinals are among teams right now interested in Dansby Swanson. Boy, the Cardinals are throwing their name into the mix for a lot of different things. I don't know if they're just doing it to keep their name in the public, or if they're trying to drive up the price for a team like the Cubs just by saying to somebody like, oh yeah, we're totally in on Dansby Swanson. Let me tell you this: if the Cardinals end up with one of these shortstops and the Cubs do not, then forget Niren's Google Doc, like the limitless payroll. If they end up with Arenado, Goldschmidt, and one of these shortstops, and the Cubs don't, then I won't have a way to defend that. There is no way to defend that.
Swanson will go to the Cardinals and he'll be way better than what all of you in the chat are saying, because that's what the Cardinals do. I'm just saying, like that's what they do if it actually happens. I'm okay with Dansby Swanson too, but there's just like this rhetoric on not only in the chat but on social media that like Dansby Swanson is an awful baseball player.
No, he's not.
He's better than any other guy that playing second base for the Cubs right now.
If Dansby Swanson means, first of all, defensively, especially if you add that center fielder that's really good defensively up the middle, they could be outrageously good by moving Nico to second base. Like that
would be outrageously good defensively for sure.
Absolutely would be great defensively. And
yeah,
if my choice is Dansby Swanson at short, who's great defensively and maybe has some question marks, but more power than some of the guys at shortstop, over not getting anybody, my choice is Dansby Swanson. Like that, yeah. The one outcome that's no good is they get nobody. That's the outcome that's no good.
Absolutely. Now, related to what the Morosi tweet about the Cardinals. Listen, I'm not removing myself from this hill that I've put myself on since the trade deadline. I'm not doing it. The Cardinals do not spend money in free agency. They do not. They convince these dumb small organizations that are poverty to trade them their best players, and then convince them to pay them money so they can pay their said players, i.e. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt at this point, and then they extend them and they pay them that way. But name one major player in the last decade that they have really gone out and paid significant money to, and the only guy that I can think of is Dexter Fowler, and that was not even $100 million contract.
So you're not buying it. You think they might Are you buying the fact what I'm saying, that they just might throw their name out there to just try and be driving up prices for the teams they know are trying to get it, aka the Cubs?
Absolutely. Yes. I do believe
they're that petty. They're that petty.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
I think so too. I agree.
But
probably that
I also, again, I think the Cardinals need pitching. I think that their fan base should be livid, upset that they were not even in talks for a guy like Verlander or deGrom, considering how close they could be to actually being a World Series contender. That's what I think. I think they are a major pitcher away from being a real World Series contender, and they weren't even in conversations for those two guys. Now, there's still guys out there, and I'm hearing that Quintana might go back. They're fine. They're fine. You'll probably be in the race for the division again. Cool, but you got an Arenado and Goldschmidt in their 30s coming off the best seasons of their career, arguably. How much longer are you gonna have that? You know what I mean? They should be pouncing to try and get a pitcher, and they're not any conversation for that. Now, I don't even know if Rodon is someone that they're interested in. If they get Rodon though, then I will say that I was wrong. But any of these other these position players, no, I don't understand why they'd be in on that. If they weren't going to trade Dylan Carlson for Juan Soto, why would they pay whatever for whoever? I don't that. Doesn't make any sense to me, Luke. That doesn't make any sense to me. So if the Cardinals are spending any significant money this offseason, this winter, the winter meetings, whatever, it will be for a pitcher. And if it's not, then I'm going to feel pretty good about being in competition with the Cardinals in the division next season, barring what the Cubs do, of course. But that's where I'm at.
You see how we get Cody out of the gray, cloudy winter doldrums? You just mentioned a team like the Cardinals, and his blood just boils. It takes him from an afternoon nap right on that nice couch back there behind him, straight into irate, blood-boiling syndrome. He goes that quickly, the switch goes. By the way,
I'm just saying, I just think that they're not going to they're not going to give someone a 10-year contract. They didn't do it for Albert Pujols back in the day. Are you kidding me? They're going to give Carlos Correa a 10-year contract? Plus, all their fans would they'd be pissed because they gave it to a cheater.
Correa. Yeah, I don't think they're going after Correa. Maybe they would like the Swanson move, but then where are they going to cut payroll in other places? Nearin saying Cubs need 5 positional players, a DH, and 2 starters for $90 million. Yikes. Well, yeah. I mean, if that's where they're setting it at $90 million, again, I would take a huge chunk of that and still put it at shortstop.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I would filter in with a bunch. If it has to be, if that's all they're going to spend, then that better be the biggest chunk of it going to shortstop. And then you filter in the other pieces however you want, because moving forward, it's best for the franchise to have him and then Nico move over and play great second base and move forward. I said I don't think going all in on the pitcher is the way to go. I would go all in though, however, on new LED lights, and the Cubs have already done that. The ComEd energy efficiency.
They looked really nice at Winterland.
That's right, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Bright, extra nice bright there. Was Wrigley extra bright?
Extra bright, Luke.
Could have been the holiday spirit too. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve save money and energy. ComEd offers free facility assessments and can help find energy-saving opportunities, whether it's lighting, HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually. They last about 2 hours. Then within 3 to 4 weeks, customers receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on right away. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. So don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips and to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. Ready to sign up for a facility assessment? Call them at 1-855-433-2700 during normal business hours to speak with a ComEd Energy Efficiency Program representative. You can also email them at businessee@comed.com or request an assessment online on their website at comed.com/facility assessment.
I'm sorry for all my yelling, but thank you all for being here today.
Yeah, great crowd in the chat. It just shows that Cubs fans are ready to let loose if the Cubs finally do something in free agency. Like now the hair on the back of the neck starting to tingle a little bit with Turner off the board, Verlander's off the board, deGrom's off the board.
Just makes so much sense for the Cubs to get one of these shortstops. It makes absolutely no sense to not do it. Like, based off everything that Jed has said and, where the team is, like, we've been sitting here talking about how they need to get this guy and this guy to be just a wild card team next year. And it's like we've seen some of the guys that they have on the team and like the potential that's there. You got to add some vets. You got to add some proven guys in there to like help shore that up. And like Herrera, Bogaerts, Swanson, I don't care. Just one of them, man. One of them. And then you start to fill out the rest of the roster, whether it's Bellinger, whether it's, Mancini or whoever. Like,
right.
I do think a guy like Tyon is like I said earlier in the show. I do think that's would be a very solid move. He's coming off. You look at his numbers on Fangraphs. He's coming off a year he pitched 177 innings. Luke,
yeah.
How many times I say last year that they didn't have any starting pitching depth? You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's done it. He didn't pitch in 2020. I don't remember why. Whether it was because he was hurt or because he just didn't want to play in the COVID year. But other than 2019. He's pitched over 100 innings every season of his career. And when he was with the Pirates, he was really good. So you're bringing him back. If you get him, you bring him back into a division where he had success. And I understand the Cubs aren't going to play the Pirates 20 times like they have over the course of existence, but because of the new schedule, Maga. But like he's going to have to pitch against teams that he had showed success against. So I think that's a very solid move. And I hope that the Cubs are in on that. If it's not Senga, if it's not Rodon or whoever, right. Like I think he'd be a very solid addition. It's not going to be someone who's going to get anyone really excited, but I do think that, like, yeah, you got to get the shortstop, but you got to get some of these other guys too. So, God, just do something.
Rich Hill's probably coming back for a year.
Oh, Luke, don't even speak it into existence, man.
Cody, what are you gambling on for the NBA? You got a little DraftKings action going? You excited?
I'm always excited, Luke. What are you talking about? I'm always excited about DraftKings. Like I said earlier, I was riding IUPUI in Green Bay this morning. Trying to find the DraftKings ad. There it is. But there is NBA tonight, so I'm gonna consider this time of the year. Everyone's excited about the gifts, the holiday spirit. But what about all the basketball? When I throw down on the NBA action, it's got to be with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Plus, everyone can combine multiple bets for a bigger payout with DraftKings same game parlays. Cubs fans in Maryland, I think sports betting's just coming to Maryland. So if you're in Maryland, you can get on DraftKings Sportsbook. Listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in your state. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful time to be alive if you're in Maryland. I mean, what were you doing before sports betting wasn't legal there? Probably being bored out of your mind watching the Orioles suck for the last decade, except for this year. Download the app now and get in on the holiday hoops action. Sign up with code CHGO and place a $5 pregame moneyline bet on any NBA team to win and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details in the YouTube description or podcast description. I'm sorry, I almost forgot to read the ad, Luke. So thank you for pointing me in the right direction.
No problem whatsoever. We've seen a couple other quick notes to point out. One was that Brian Reynolds from the Pirates, all-star outfielder, is basically demanding a trade out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Well, he's young and pretty good. That changes some of the outfield looks, but I mean, what are you gonna have to give up to get him? And are the
Oh my God.
Pirates really gonna do in the division? Are they gonna trade that guy?
I don't think
Probably
he'll
not.
trade him in. I don't think they'll trade him in division. However, if the Cardinals just swoop in there and just fleece them, because that's what the Cardinals do, like that would honestly bother me more than them signing like a major player. Because I think Brian Reynolds is really good. Every time we watch the Cubs and Pirates play this past year, we were always like, oh, here comes Reynolds. Like he's like one of the 3 good players on that team, man. And I can't believe the Pirates have messed that relationship up, because like he is really good. He is someone that I would love on the Cubs. He's the perfect fit for the Cubs in center field right now. Absolutely perfect fit.
Yeah.
But if the Cubs actually did try to trade for him, I mean, they would have to give up a decent haul, I think, because again, he's young and
when you
very,
hope your
very
guys
good.
are coming, you still hope your guys are coming. You hope Brennan Davis is coming. I saw Miguel Amaya is finally walking without a boot at catcher after his, what do they call it, Liz Frank surgery on his ankle. We've talked about the injury thing over and over. I don't want the podcast to end without pointing out that Fred McGriff is in the going to the Hall of Fame. And while he is not
crime dog,
the crime dog, although he is not a super lifelong Cub, he did play 2 pretty positive seasons for the Cubs, 42 home runs in 2 seasons. He almost got to 500 career home runs. Really consistent guy. And again, it's this committee built up of 16 former players, contemporary Hall of Fame committee. Rhino's on it. Greg Maddux is on it. Frank Thomas is on it. They once again completely 0 votes for Bonds, Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro.
It was like less
Schilling.
than 4 for each of them, right? Like
what? Yeah,
I thought they
basically
votes.
shut those guys out.
I thought they got votes, but it was less than 4 for all of those guys you just mentioned. I thought maybe they did all go 0, but either way,
I heard people complaining like, well, what's your reasoning? What's your reasoning? I know what the reasoning is. The reasoning is steroids. Like, we know for a fact what the reasoning is. It's just that there are guys that are. We talked about Pudge. Like, come on, guys, he's in the Hall of Fame, and he was a steroid guy. Like
Jeff Bagwell, yeah.
I mean, there are certainly guys that have gotten in already. So it's an interesting. Don't get me wrong. Fred McGriff's a great player. Was a great player. But the way different guys are getting in is interesting. It's fascinating to see who gets in and who doesn't.
I was hoping that this quote unquote committee would like do the right thing, and the fact that it wasn't even close just shows just how discrediting the Baseball Hall of Fame is at this point, in my opinion. If you think otherwise, that's fine. Like everyone on this podcast should know by now my take on all the guys who did steroids.
I know,
and I'm not. The only way you're going to get me to change my mind is if you drug me and remove my memory of everything and then just embed it in my head that that's what I think. There's nothing that's going to get me to change my mind on it. That said, Fred McGriff is very deserving, almost 500 home run hitter.
Yeah.
It's one of my, when I was a very, very small child, I loved watching him hit for the 2 years that he was with the Cubs. He was a very good player. I don't remember his prime years because I was so young, but
I mean,
you look at the numbers, he was very deserving.
He had a 30 home run season at age 38 with the Cubs. So, paying some of these guys into their late 30s maybe isn't always a terrible idea. Sooner or later, the Cubs are going to have to do it. Again, a reminder, I know we got to wrap up this podcast because we had other podcasts today, but we're right on the fringe of this. So if and when the Cubs do make a big deal, Ryan is in San Diego. So we got a guy there with feet on the ground, digging around. When Jed talks, he'll have something for us. Check allchgo.com. Some of the content, a lot more of the content is now out from behind the paywall. So you can read Ryan's stuff there. There's still the paywall for the diehards. But we will have an emergency podcast if something big happens. If that's later today, jump right back here. Cody and I will throw it out on Twitter. CHGO Cubs will put it out on Twitter. CHGO Sports will put it out on Twitter. And if the Cubs do throw their feet into this pool and get in the mix in this card game, we'll be here with an emergency podcast. And it's time, Cody. It's time. Trey Turner, 11 years, $300 million, no trade clause. Verlander off the board, 2 years, $86 million. deGrom off the board, 5 years. So I'm not saying they were ever in on any of those 3 guys. I'm just saying the dominoes have started, and the dominoes the Cubs are looking for or hoping for, they're starting to tick down further and further close to their mix. So let's see what happens.
You're hopeful? I'm hopeful, but I'm the gif of the guy with the stick, and I'm pointing at the Cubs logo, and I'm saying, do something. Like, just impatiently hitting this.
I'll say Aaron Judge is the next guy to sign. That's the way it sure seems, that the next big name off the board will be Aaron Judge. And if Judge is the guy that comes off the board, is the last thing I'll say. And let's say he goes to the Dodgers or the Giants. Well, then that because of the money that'll be involved, that is going to impact the free agent shortstop market as well for some of these teams. So it's like you injure your shoulder, now your elbow hurts. Your elbow hurts, now your wrist hurts. Your wrist hurt. It's all connected. So let's see what happens. And again, Ryan's there. We're ready to do an emergency pod, right? Because we're home, we're ready to go. Got the little ring light, got the microphone. We're ready to go. And a huge shout out to the chat, who was awesome.
Yep.
Really
great numbers in the chat today. Appreciate it as always. And even if I do disagree with some of you, I still appreciate you being here. That said, I'm still interested in talking some baseball. I'm going to be playing Call of Duty on my YouTube channel at 3:00 if anyone wants to come watch and talk baseball with me.
If that's how you want to de-stress, that's the way to do it.
I need to distract myself. Yeah. Multiplayer. Someone yelled at me on Twitter about how playing multiplayer in 2022 is like bad, and then I felt like old man on yelling at the clouds or something like that. Whenever I wanted to reply back, and then I didn't, because I didn't want to make him upset, but he made me upset. So.
All right, we gotta make way for the next podcast, which I believe is the Blackhawks. So thank you to everybody checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Use CHGO when you sign up, and don't forget to download that app at DraftKings. They are the best, and we appreciate them. We appreciate you. We'll see you very soon, hopefully later today if we're all lucky. Until then, fly the W.